We interrupt regular YouTube programming with some breaking news. Tragedy struck the automotive industry earlier today when the Volkswagen Golf, Toyota Corolla and Mazda 3 were gunned down in the street in a brazen lone wolf attack. Police are searching for a gunman of German appearance, travelling on a South Korean passport, hiding behind a long list of standard features and inclusions. Witnesses say there had been increased tensions between the four for some time. Full details next. I'm John Cadogan, the imperial wizard of car dealer disruption, here at autoexpert.com.au, the place where Aussie new car buyers save thousands on their next new cars. Hit me up on the website for that. Clothing optional, if you're a chick. Now, let's go live to our reporter Cletus Van Dam on the scene of this tragedy. Cletus, what's the latest? Thanks, fat man. Nobody really knows how this could have happened. Police I never spoke to at the scene did not tell me there was simply no hint i30 would go rogue like this, and investigations into its radicalisation continue. A Volkswagen spokesperson never actually said the company was going through a period of intense adjustment, attempting to reconcile the grim facts with its interesting interpretation of reality. And a psychologist who never got the chance to decline to be interviewed never actually told me denial is typically the first stage of the healing process. A sobering day indeed, which is why I'm going straight from here to the pub to get smashed. Back to you, fat man. That was Cletus Van Dam on location in Shitsville. Yeah? Is he ready to go now? He's not high again, is he? You sure? Okay, and the young lady, she definitely dropped the charges, right? Definitely? Okay, you say so. I'm being told we're ready to go live to Phil Collins as Talentless Bad Santa with the latest from the driver's seat. Volkswagen, Toyota and Mazda must be so thrilled, over the moon, don't you think? All cock-a-hoop over the launch of the new i30. In August last year, just a few months ago, Volkswagen Australia boss Michael Barsh came out swinging. Do you remember that? He said, quote, "I don't think anyone gets up in the morning and goes, I'm aspiring to own a Korean car." Well, I tell you what, this is the new Hyundai i30 SR Premium, and it's a very impressive car. In fact, I could aspire to own the crap out of this every day, 7 days a week, and twice on Sunday. So I think if you go to Mr. Barsh's office today and look at the clock up on the wall, it's word-eating o'clock. The i30 range is so simple even a politician would get it. You've got active down the bottom and then there's a fork in the road, and you can elect to go for the comfort models, the Elite and the Premium on one side, or you could go the sporty route instead with the SR and then the SR Premium above it. When you go back to active, you've got a 2-litre GDI petrol engine with either a 6-speed manual or a 6-speed automatic transmission. If you want one of the comfort models, the Elite or the Premium, then you're going to be driving a 1.6 litre diesel, and that comes with a 7-speed dual clutch transmission. Over in Sportsville with SR, you can have a 6-speed manual transmission on the basic SR or a 7-speed dual clutch transmission. An SR Premium is 7-speed dual clutch transmission only. Don't panic about the dual clutch transmission. It's only Ford, Volkswagen and Audi that can't get those to live. Hyundai's has been here for quite a few years now behind this 1.6 litre engine in particular, and the diesel as well a bit later on, and it's proven quite reliable in service, so there's no worries there. There's almost an unwritten law in the car industry that goes, 11th commandment like this. The bottom of the range has to be a nasty little stripped out dung box that only an accountant could love because he's buying them by the score for, a rental car company or a government department. And that kind of leaves the average Aussie family car buyer out in the cold if you just want basic transportation, but you don't want a poverty pack. So the i30 Active has absolutely broken this mould. The list of standard inclusions with i30 Active is nothing less than astonishing. You get GPS with a big fat screen as standard, and built into that is Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You also get standard tyre pressure monitoring system, LED daytime running lamps. You get a 5-star safety rating with 7 airbags, automatic headlamps. You get rear parking sensors and a reversing camera, all standard, plus 16-inch alloys with a full-sized spare tyre and conventional cruise control. I don't know about you, but I've had poverty before, and that's not it. Up the other end of the range, the i30 SR Premium, the car we're in right now, it absolutely humiliates the Volkswagen Golf that you could buy for the same money, which would be 34 grand plus on-road costs. That's the 110 TSI Comfort Line Golf. Apart from being a heap more potent in the powertrain department, you also get just an armada of standard features that is not there in the Golf. Things like adaptive cruise control, the big fat panoramic roof, the value proposition and the performance proposition at the same price point is absolutely staggering. Of course, it's not just Volkswagen feeling the pinch here. Mazda's not liking the new SR Premium either. It's good enough to humiliate the SP25 Astina. They're almost equivalent on spec, but the powertrain in this car, the 1.6 GDI turbo, is so much more potent. It's more potent in absolute terms. It makes a handful more kilowatts and a handful more newton meters. But what's really going on here, because of the turbocharger, is the delivery of peak torque. Peak torque comes on in this car at 1500 revs, and it keeps coming on until 4500. So you get your 265 newton meters of torque all the way between those extremes. In the SP25 GT and Astina, what you're getting is a little bit less torque, but it's not coming on song until 3250 revs. And that just makes this car, the SR Premium, incredibly potent at low and mid revs. A little hand invisibly just reaches out behind you and gives you a nice big push at all of those revs. And this powertrain absolutely eclipses the delivery from the SP25 GT at all revs, from 1500 RPM all the way up to 6000. Of course, should you wish to scale the lofty summit of Mount Humiliation, you'll need to do that in the entry-level Mercedes-Benz A-Class, the Gay 180. This is a car that will cost you $5,000 more than the i30 SR Premium. It comes with hardly any standard equipment, and of course you get 60 fewer kilowatts and 65 fewer newton meters from the same displacement turbocharged engine. It would not pull a sailor off your sister. Of course, given the caliber of sailor who would be seen conventionally in a Mercedes-Benz A-Class, sis would be quite safe. The premium German car makers have turned de-speccing their entry-level models into an art form, and the real trick here is to convince you that they are still premium. Everything I just said about the Gay 180 is of course applicable to the entry-level Audi A3, the A3 Auto, in all its 1 litre 3-cylinder glory. What were they thinking? Probably, did we cheat the emissions on that one too? Here in Australia, Hyundai spends quite a bit of time and money calibrating the suspension settings uniquely for our crap roads. And they do a great job. They've got a wizard who's primarily in charge of the technicalities here. His name is David Potter. You know Harry Potter, right? Same thing, different wand. A couple of other guys of note as well on the team there, Andrew Tuatahi and Heelong Wong. Together, they have gone through more than 200 different calibration permutations of the dampers, springs, bushes, whatever, for this car. More than 200 permutations. Can you imagine the complexity of just keeping track of the feedback on all of those different settings and arriving at ultimately the best one? It's so much data, right? Anyway, they've done a great job. And what is essentially the case here is you've got three distinctly different characters. The base model Active is quite relaxed to drive. It just does what you tell it to. It's your typical family car. It does a good job in that context. When you step up into the i30 SR range, you get a more advanced rear suspension setup, and that car has a really lively sort of character. The ride is not excessively harsh, but it's certainly not soft either. This is a hot hatch. It's not warm, it's not lukewarm, it's not tepid. It's hot. You can get from A to B very quickly if you press on in the SR. And then on the comfort side of things with the diesel engine, if you're looking at the Elite or the Premium, that's kind of relaxed as well, but a little bit tauter, I think, than the base model Active setup. So you're kind of progressing through those different characters, and you can actually pick and choose the one that's right for you, and there's a substantial difference between them. Across the board, i30 is very comfortable. I spent several hours yesterday cycling myself through all the different models, the base model, then Elite and Premium. After hours, you know, no chiropractor required. The other thing, of course, is the ergonomic integration. Very good. That central screen is extremely clear. You can split screen it to get nav on one side and AV information on the others. You've got good phone integration with the Apple and Android integration systems. So that's all really good news. One of the other things I really like about this range is that there are no unknown quantities. The powertrains, we've seen them all before. The 2-litre GDI engine in Active, it's already in Tucson. We saw it before in the previous i30 SR, the outgoing one. The 1.6-litre turbo GDI petrol, that's been around for donkey's years as well. So there's no nasty little surprises in the petrol range, and nor is there with the diesel. The 1.6-litre turbo diesel engine has been around for ages. The dual clutch transmission is not something you need to worry about either. It's been around for donkey's years, and apparently it is quite robust in service as well. There's no such thing as the perfect car. So before you get that big fat slab of hard-earned cash and slap it down on the counter of your local Hyundai dealer, you might want to think about this. The diesel engine. Since late last year, all diesel engines had to comply with Euro 5 emissions laws in Australia, and that means they have a particle filter. The particle filter needs to be driven regularly on the highway, and that would be, you know, free-flowing highway speeds at least once a week for more than about half an hour. If you do not do this, the required regeneration of that filter will not occur, and you'll open the door to it clogging up, which is a very expensive problem in the service department. So if you can't use that car like that, if you're one of our increasingly urbanised Australian drivers, the i30 Elite or Premium diesel may not be the right car for you. There's plenty of petrol options though. You get the 2-litre GDI engine in the Active, or the 1.6 turbo petrol engine in SR and SR Premium. If you've got a young driver in your life and the state that you live in, like here in New South Wales, there are power to weight prerequisites for young drivers with P1 and P2 licenses. Thankfully, the SR and SR Premium with the 1.6 turbo engine are well within the wheelhouse of that 130 kilowatts per tonne ceiling for P1 and P2 drivers. So if you buy the SR or the SR Premium, it's not going to be a problem for teaching a young person to drive or letting them borrow your car. Although, not sure I'd lend my brand new i30 SR Premium to any old P1 or P2 driver, mainly because I know what I used to do to my parents' car when they lent it to me. If you buy an i30 Active, you will get a full-size spare wheel and tyre, and that's something we've come to expect from the vast majority of new Hyundais that have been launched since the year dot in Australia. However, if you go down the comfort track and you buy an Elite or a Premium, or you go down the sports track and you buy an SR or an SR Premium, those cars will come with a space saver spare. If you live in the bush or if you just drive on freeways regularly, that might be seen as a bit of a disadvantage, and I certainly am not a fan of the space saver spare tyre. The only evidence in mitigation I can give you there is that the construction of the floor above the spare wheel enclosure at the rear is more than compatible with a full-size spare wheel, and in fact the floor can even be slotted in at 2 different levels. So you could hypothetically use that as a sticking point for negotiation with your local Hyundai dealer. You could say, mate, I know a full-size spare goes in there, and I know the floor can be adjusted easily to compensate for that, so I will slap my cash down on your counter right now as long as you ante up with a full-size spare tyre. Sound like a plan? Many new Hyundai i30 buyers are going to be purchasing a car with a dual clutch transmission, and many of those will be owning a dual clutch transmission for the first time. And it's easy to assume that you're just buying another automatic because, hey, you reach down, you take it out of park, you put it in drive, it feels like an automatic and it smells like an automatic, but you better not step in it. And by step in it, I mean if you drive it like an automatic, that would be a mistake, sometimes a very expensive one. It's a mistake to inch forward in traffic because unlike an automatic, which has a torque converter, a dual clutch transmission relies on a centrifugal clutch mechanism of sorts in between the engine and the transmission, and that allows disengagement when you're stopped at the lights. The engine doesn't stall. Always good. The biggest mistake you can make with a dual clutch transmission is to inch forward under load at very low speed. So if you're reversing routinely up a very steep, complex driveway, if you've got a trailer on the back and you're trying to do that, or even if you're just in traffic all the time and you're used to an automatic which will inch forward all day long uphill, don't do that in the dual clutch transmission. That clutch will not be receptive to that mode of use, and the repair bill for having it replaced is quite high. So you've got to understand to some extent what's down there under the hood and adjust your driving style accordingly. There's no problem intrinsically with this dual clutch transmission, but I'd be driving it like a dual clutch and not a standard automatic. My final gripe with i30 is a bit of a minor one. It's the steering wheel in the Active, and I know I'm just being a bit of a bitch now because that car is staggeringly well equipped and you can't have everything, right? I mean, where would you put it? But it would be nice if they could have just walked out in product planning land and found themselves a steering wheel that had, I don't know, the cheapest cheap fake leather or whatever, and just put that on instead, because that would have been the glacé cherry of the icing on the cake of that astonishing equipment list in that variant. After a few brief days driving the different variants of i30, I've come away very impressed with the totality of the range and its broad-based appeal. Obviously it's not the right car for everybody, but it is so right for so many potential buyers in this segment. So if you had Volkswagen Golf on your shopping list, or Mazda 3 or Toyota Corolla, some of the most popular cars in the market, I'd be strongly suggesting you drive this car at exactly the same price point and weigh it up objectively, because i30 makes real sense. It's a killer of sorts. That was a bearded former British convict, kind of Ross Kemp, reporting live from some cultural void near Banjoville, just outside Sydney, Australia. A couple of minor points in closing. Dual clutch transmissions are not as refined at low speed manoeuvring as conventional autos. They are, however, better at spirited, engaging driving. They're designed to handle stop-start traffic. Just be mindful of what Know Me Boy said earlier about habitually inching forward under load. Don't do that. Diesel particle filters aren't that hard to keep healthy either. Take a drive every weekend for 30 minutes up the freeway. Have coffee next to the ocean with someone you'd like to see naked. As long as you don't need to gaffer tape them into the boot to get them to accompany you. That never ends well. I mean, come on, you've seen the Tarantino movies too, right? Drive home and nude up, secure in the knowledge your DPF will live to fight another day. That's all it takes. And just so you know, I'm pushing this video live 1 nanosecond after the media embargo lifts, which means midnight on the 4th of May 2017 in Australia. If you're watching it shortly afterwards, remember my standard advice about being an early adopter. Wait, if you can, about 8 to 12 weeks after launch before buying any new car. I really don't think we have to worry about powertrain teething problems with the i30. The powertrains have been sufficiently deployed on other models, so that's good. But pent-up demand in the market often means supply at dealerships is insufficient to meet that demand. And that's kind of bad. It means no or greatly reduced discounting early on. If you can wait, you'll almost certainly get a better price. And that's important to many buyers. And finally, I'd like to thank Hyundai for generously cycling me through the range ahead of the car's official debut. But at the same time, I want to assure you that no money changed hands, and I am absolutely free to report what I want about the new i30. Hyundai can like or hate what I say in this report. That's a matter entirely for them. You're getting my honest opinion, and that's what really counts. I just happen to like the new i30 a lot. It makes a great deal of sense for many potential owners. I hope this report helps you decide whether or not the i30 is the right new car for you. I'm John Cadogan. Thanks for watching.